What is going on, everyone? Mike Anthony here for another edition of the Senior Bowl Zoomies, brought to you by Dynasty Dogs and the Toilets to Titles. This will be part 3 and 4. I did record part 3 earlier today, back in North Carolina, like 6 hours ago. But unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties, so now I'm re-recording it here in Atlanta with part 4 as well. So let's just jump right into it. First, we have tight end Gunnar Helm, 6'5", 252. These are his measurements from this down at the Senior Bowl, so these are verified. His 2024 stats, very productive season. 60 receptions, 786 yards, and 7 TDs. Very nice season for the Texas Longhorns. Uh, for pros that I see on his film, strong hands, very reliable target, a guy that is going to not only just bring in the catch, but find open space. One of the things I noticed on Gunnar Helm's film that I think is a very underrated aspect of being a tight end, and it's probably other than blocking and pass catching, it's one of the most important things, and it is finding open space. One thing I would think he does really well is those little chip blocks on the edge, and then, like a delayed route into the flat or into the middle of the field, just to kind of give his quarterback a safety blanket. I think he does that extremely well. Again, I just mentioned that chip block, willing blocker, a guy who is going to, give his best effort at it. A guy who is, a larger size, so I do expect him to get better as, he gets into the NFL. An underrated aspect of his game, I believe, is his quickness and athleticism. If you turn on the film, if you just want to watch his highlight film, this dude has probably 6, 7 hurdles on film. And for a guy who's, 252 pounds, that is extremely impressive. I think his footwork, by the way, as a route runner is very solid as well. For again, another thing at being 252 pounds, you don't really expect quickness in his routes, but I think he's very solid at that. So I will give him that as a pro. Cons, blocking consistency. You do kind of see him getting shrugged by edge rushers and opposing defenders. So that is something that he is going to have to work at. It seems like more of a technique thing to me, and speed. Long speed is definitely not something, that is going to be his calling card in the NFL. He's not like our Colson Lovelands or our Harold Fanning Jr.'s like we talked about earlier in this series. But, he's going to get the job done as a yards after catch tight end. So here are some other quick notes that I have. He really seized this opportunity his senior season. Wasn't overly productive at all these past few years in Texas, but he doubled his offensive snaps in 2024. And not only that, he was one of Ewers' favorite targets and led the Longhorns in receptions. So he took that, doubling of offensive snaps and made the most of it, which is extremely important. We want to see that going into the draft. It's a very positive outlook for him. Right now, he is my tight end 5. Tight end 4 of this class. A guy I'm really high on, and a guy that I believe could be a very good tight end in the NFL. Not only that, a good tight end for PPR fantasy football just as well, because like I mentioned earlier, a very good safety blanket. He's going to get, in my opinion, could get you 5 to 6 catches a game, and that's kind of what we want our tight ends to have. The next guy I'm going to get into here is one of my favorite players of this draft class, one of my favorite wide receivers of this draft class. We talk about a lot how this wide receiver class is not overly elite, but it is very depthful. It's not a word, but we're going to use it for this wide receiver class. This is a guy who is in my top 10 towards the back end, but a guy I'm probably going to have a lot of shares of in Dynasty Fantasy Football, and that is Tai Felton. Maryland wide receiver. I have him listed at 6'2", 186 pounds. As of this recording, his Senior Bowl measurements have not come out, so that is something we'll have to keep an eye on. 2024 stats, 96 receptions, 1,124 yards, 9 TDs. This is a guy who is extremely, just in general, extremely reliable as almost in every aspect. Solid hands. At one point in the season, he had multiple catches in a row. I'm not just saying like 4 or 5, but almost in the realm of like 70, 80 receptions in a row without a drop. It was extremely impressive. This is a guy you can give the ball to and just depend on him to make plays. Route running and getting open quickly are his calling card to me. A guy that uses a lot of defensive manipulation to get open in his routes. And, he not only does that, but again, we talked about with quickness with Gunnar Helm, multiply that by like 45 with Tai Felton. He is a dude who is going to make defenders look silly. I expect to see that this week. Yards after catch, uses that quickness in with the ball in his hands to create yards after, and is a play a make you miss away from taking it to the house. And then his speed as well, added to the yak, is that he is a big play waiting to happen. I expect him to have a low 4.4, or maybe even a 4.38. But I would probably take a guess at 4.42 or 4.4 on the dot. Some cons for Tai Felton. Kind of all fall in the same category. That is blocking, physicality, and a slim frame. Again, I mentioned that 186 pounds, slim frame, and then that also causes issues with his blocking. He's more of an issue when it comes to, he just puts a body on you and kind of hopes for the best from things that I've noticed. That is obviously something that can be improved on, and it needs to be improved on in the next level. Because our wide receivers are extremely dependent on to block, especially in the running game. That is definitely something he's going to have to work out on. And physicality as well. I don't think it's an over issue when it comes to in his routes. I think he does deal with more handsy defenders well. But again, he just in general needs to bulk up, become a little bit more physical. And I think we could see a very solid wide receiver 2 in the NFL. Like I mentioned, one of my current favorite wide receivers of this class, one of my favorite players in this class as general. I could see him going to like a Pittsburgh Steelers or Houston Texans and completely thriving. As I mentioned, a guy who gets open quick, a reliable target. He finished in college football last year, second in targets to the wide receiver position with 148. 5th in receptions in college football, and 15th in receiving yards. This is a dude that could really make some noise this week and then possibly get himself into the second round of the NFL draft. That is where I am kind of projecting him right now. He's a guy who's not really talked about too much. I see a lot more of day 3 for him. I could see at the worst, for me, 3rd round, but I definitely see a day 2 pick in general, and I could see a late 2nd round pick. But that will be it for 3 and 4 of this series of the Senior Bowl Zoomies. I should have one more when I arrive in Mobile, Alabama, so be on the lookout for that. And I appreciate you guys checking in on this, and I will see you on the next one.